We've all been there. That one class that you're just not doing so great in with a low grade that's really bringing down the GPA. And yeah, maybe most of it is your fault, but still, you want to blame someone else for it. And often, people pick to blame their teacher. Still, you try to sweet talk your teacher into giving you that extra push to pass, but what happens when things don't go your way? Two teens in Iowa were so unhappy with their grades that they decided to take matters into their own hands. And they documented their murderous crimes on Snapchat for the whole world to see. Our story today takes place in 2021 in the good old Midwest. The Midwest is full of cornfields, tractors, those really creepy kids from Children of the Corn, and some other kids with a bit too much time on their hands. For Nohema Graber, a Spanish teacher in the city of Fairfield, Iowa, a few of these kinds of teens were in her class too. Graber was in her 50s when she earned a degree in English and a teaching certificate from Iowa Wesleyan University. She then decided to begin teaching Spanish at Fairfield High School, where, according to former students, she was well liked among her community and continually encouraged new graduates to continue taking Spanish classes at their local colleges. She was a passionate teacher. She would dress up on spirit days and ask her students to show their prom photos. Many commented that her joy was contagious. However, like most teachers, she did struggle to win over all her students. Being a teacher is a tough job. While she was bilingual and fluent in English, students remarked that she did have a strong accent and struggled to understand slang at times, which made her the target for some students' jokes. But she went to work every day and she was loved by her fellow teachers. Most of her coworkers even knew of Graber's little tics and habits, like how she would leave work every day and drive to Fairfield's Chautauqua Park to let off steam and get some exercise by walking and de-stressing from a long day of work before going home. She enjoyed these kinds of simple pleasures in life, just like when she visited the town's local library at the beginning of November 2021 to admire the display commemorating the Day of the Dead, which is celebrated by people of Mexican heritage. The local newspaper asked her for a comment on the display, and she replied, "We all know we're going to die. It's our way of laughing at death." No one knew at the time just how chilling these last words of hers would become. The next day, on November 2nd, Graber went to school, just like she always did. It was just another ordinary day, but she had an appointment scheduled with one of her students. That student was 16-year-old Willard Miller. Documents obtained by the court revealed that Miller's grade had been consistently quite low in Graber's Spanish class, and suspected that the meeting had something to do with the poor grades. And while we still don't know what exactly transpired in this meeting between the two, Miller's actions later that day led prosecutors to believe that he wasn't exactly satisfied with what Graber had to say. Graber then left school like she did every day after work and traveled to her local park for some exercise. But the following day, Graber didn't come into work. A missing persons report was sent out, and on the 3rd, Graber's body was found at the local park she frequented. Graber had been badly beaten. Her body had been hidden under a tarp, wheelbarrow, and railroad ties. Forensics later revealed that the cause of her death had been blunt force trauma to the head that was most likely caused by a brutal beating from a baseball bat. A wave of shock and horror quickly shook the school and its small-town community, but not nearly as quickly as the police were able to arrest a culprit. Soon after Graber's body was discovered, Miller and his friend Jeremy Goodale were arrested as prime suspects in Graber's murder. But how could they have been so sure so quickly? Well, apparently the boys, like most Gen Z kids, love to be chronically online. These boys documented every moment of their lives all day long and uploaded to their favorite social media apps. And apparently, according to one of the friends who were able to view the posts on Snapchat, they discovered that Miller and Goodale were documenting and revealing to the world their attempt to deliberately kill Graber and cover up her murder. While these posts hadn't been released by the court yet, and the defense is still insisting that they be thrown out because they argue that they were obtained illegally, the lawyer, Christine Brandstad, says that the search warrants were issued illegally in part because, quote, law enforcement failed to provide information to the issuing magistrate to show the informant is reliable or that the information from the informant should be considered reliable. They said that the details in the post revealed a possible motive for killing Graber, the planning and execution of the means to kill her, and their deliberate attempts to conceal the crime. Besides this evidence, there were eyewitness reports that put Miller and Goodale in Graber's location at the time of the murder. According to reports, Graber's van was actually seen leaving Chautauqua Park at around 4:42 p.m. Eyewitnesses reveal that they saw two males in the front two seats of the van, driving southbound on Glasgow Road around 5 p.m. After a short while, two males were seen walking away from Middle Glasgow Road, the same place where Graber's van would be discovered by law enforcement the next day. Phone records show that Goodale called a friend the night of the 2nd from his phone and asked them to pick him up on the same road that evening. He went to pick up and identified them as Jeremy Goodale and Willard Miller. Investigators used the social media posts to obtain search warrants. Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation agents arrived at Miller's home at 5:30 in the morning on November 4th, 2021. They brought Miller in for questioning right away. The investigators told Miller's mother, Annalisa Clifford Gold, they wanted to question her son along with a bunch of other students of Graber's. Miller's mom had signed a waiver form that is meant to demonstrate that the parent of a juvenile defendant knows why the police want to talk to their kid. But Miller's mom said she thought police were still investigating the disappearance of Graber, not her death. When they began to interview Miller, he admitted to being at the park as the murder was taking place. He also admitted his frustration towards the teacher to the police. He even described Graber as an asshole. In his initial questioning, he even admitted to providing materials utilized in committing the murder, like the wheelbarrow and aiding in actions taken to conceal the murder. But he said he didn't do it. His tune began to change, and so did his alibi. He stated that he was not the murderer, but later stated he had knowledge of everything but did not participate. But he was forced to help the murderers, who had apparently been a roving group of masked kids that killed Graber and forced him to get rid of the body. Yet, it wasn't Miller with the big mouth, or I guess fast fingers in the case of social media, that was trying to upload the story to the web, but actually Goodale, who had been the one bragging on social media about the murder that they had just committed. Yet, still, the two young men still insist that they're innocent. When Miller's mother figured out what was going on and that the other students actually weren't being interviewed and that her son was thought to be the one to commit these crimes, she asked for the interview to end at 7:15 a.m., but was not allowed to talk to Miller. DCI agent Ryan Kedley testified that the interrogation officially ended around 9 a.m. In court, she was asked by defense attorney Nathan Olson, "Before you signed that form, were you told that Chaden was a suspect in any crime?" "No," Clifford Gold said. "Before you signed the form, were you even told that there had been a homicide?" he asked. "No," she said. "Would you have granted permission if you knew?" Olson asked. "Not without a lawyer present," Clifford Gold said. Whether or not his mother wanted to talk to him, whether or not she tried to get in the room or told the officers to terminate the interrogation, makes no difference in the circumstance because of the nature of the offenses that are being investigated by the police, said the Assistant Attorney General, Scott Brown. "He is treated as an adult. That's the way it works." Both of the teens are currently being charged for first-degree murder, and they're being tried as adults. However, in Iowa, the penalty for first-degree murder is life in prison. But if juveniles are convicted of serious crimes like this, they'll still be given a chance for parole. As of right now, the case remains open, as both of the teens have just begun their hearings. But we will just have to wait and see what happens. Changing your story of what happened multiple times, it definitely doesn't bode well for these two teens. Court documents filed by Jefferson County Attorney Chauncey Moulding stated, "The poor grade is believed to be the motive behind the murder of Graber, which directly connects Miller." I definitely have been frustrated by getting bad grades before, but what happened here, it was truly awful. So sad. My heart goes out to Nohema Graber, her family, friends, and all the students who loved her. Her life was taken way too early. This is an ongoing case that will soon see big developments in the trials starting in the upcoming months. Again, I'm Louie. Stay safe out there, everyone, and join us next time for another episode of Killer Bites.